Hey, Jordan with Pinebox Customs here. Today we are looking at Warm Beer. Warm Beer is the very first pedal in the small batch series, and you may know it. It is not super loose, but a loose representation of the Color Sound Overdriver. So to start, you have volume, gain, treble, and bass. The noticeable differences are going to be in the gain control. So if you're familiar with this pedal at all, the original circuit, you'll know that there is basically no change in most of the sweep, and then you hit the very end and it's kind of like maxed or nothing. There's just a huge bump, and it goes from being a boost to a fuzz. There's really not much overdrive there unless you play with your guitar's volume knob, in my opinion. So I did my best to fix that. It still is a pretty abrupt stop at the end. Like, it goes from boost, about halfway through you'll start getting to the drive instead of 75%, and then the last 10% is full on fuzz, maybe even 5%. So that works a lot better. It has a bit better range, works a lot easier. It's not as difficult to dial in like the sound that you want. The other noticeable differences will be the treble and bass. I tuned the band axle a little bit, so I didn't make that many changes to it, but when you have a passive tone control, you kind of, it interacts with the gain and the volume, and I minimized that as much as possible, which also means that basically when you roll the treble up, which is what I would usually use this for, it's not going to muddy up the signal a lot, it's not going to add a lot of gain, and it is more like a standard treble and bass control. So that helps out everything just to be a little bit more smoother. There are higher gain transistors in here. They don't add any noise, they just give us a little bit more gain, a little bit of a warmer feel, quite a bit less gated to my ears. So, without further ado, let's jump in. Let's just roll everything to noon and work from there. Keep in mind, this is a very loud pedal, so start the volume a little lower, we'll bring it up. So you can hear right away that the band axle isn't super abrupt. There isn't a ton of volume change. The areas where it gets really quiet, you'll probably not use a lot, except maybe on bass. And in that case, you're probably going to roll up the volume anyways. Kind of use it like one setting. So that is, a pretty good difference. Something that makes it a little bit more usable, like in an entire rig where you're not swapping stuff and changing stuff when you want to keep it there. So let's test out the gain a little bit. We'll start low. Like I said, you're really not going to hear much of a bump until you hit about 50%, so right at noon. That gives you a little bit of an idea of the gain range here. So, best uses. Best uses to me are going to be right in the middle of the pedal board. If you don't already have something that's kind of an always on, you know, a lot of people use like an overdrive, a light boost is like a buffer. If you don't have something already set up in that place, perfect for that. Other than that, it's really good to have stuff boosted into it, and also good for boosting into other things. It's probably where I'll use it. A lot of volume, a lot of gain. You can pretty much destroy the front end of anything with it. Really beneficial if you like stacking stuff. Let's focus on some higher gain rhythm. You'll kind of notice the blending. Just take note that if you stay with kind of an even attack, you get a pretty flat response. Of course, we can't finish without stacking. We'll do a blues driver into it and a tall after it, and just get a general idea of what's going on there. One quick thing to note there, the blues driver going into warm beer kind of lets you shape the tone. With the blues driver, you're hearing a lot more of the high-end harmonics coming through. When you put warm beer in front of tall, you're kind of retaining the even response. Tall doesn't, really give you as much of a tone sweep as it typically does. So, it makes a big difference where you put it. So, hopefully that gives you a good idea. Warm beer will be released this Friday, and it's the first in the small batch series. We're doing something pretty cool with that. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, you can get a little bit more information on the Pinebox Customs website. There's also another link on, or another video on YouTube you can check out. And yeah, it should be fun. Have a good one.